Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here. Before we get into our interview previewing the Inter Miami that you guys have come to expect, we've got a excellent guest, Franco Panizo from Miami Total Futbol. Joins us, gives a good interview, talks a lot about Miami that you'll definitely want to listen to. Before we get into that, we have to cover the Spirits, air quotes, home game that happened. John can't even see my air quotes. Couldn't have my video on, but you definitely can't see my air quotes.
There we go.
Just know that is meant in sarcasm, even though it'll go down as a home game. They played the game in Houston, and the Spirit walked up with their first win of the season.
Totally, never in doubt. Never,
yes.
Not from both before the game, during, or after the game. It was it was always going to be a win. So that's good.
Yep. No controversy, no nothing.
None.
Let's so you before we started recording, you brought up the expected goals. Give us those numbers. Give us those numbers if you still have them offhand.
Pretend you didn't watch the game, and this is what I was telling you. Imagine the team that you were playing had a 2.55 expected goals. You had a 1.13, and one of those teams that won is not the one with more. And Washington had a 12% chance of winning this game based on their shots alone. And you know what? They did it anyway. They did it with 10 players. They did it having an away game in a different time zone and different state. And they did it with a referee who was what did I call it in the wrap up? I think unpredictable, I think was the nice thing I called her. Sort of erratic, maybe would be another way to say it.
So I'll have to go back and look at who the referee was. I wonder if the quick change in, because they're paying these referees, probably more than I make, the $50 I make, doing a center for a U14. I hope they are. Goodness gracious, I hope they are. Probably make a little bit more money for doing the professional games.
Is that per game?
So it varies.
That's pretty good.
It depends on the.
I get why you do it now, Ted. That's pretty good.
It varies. It varies on the level that you do it, but I imagine they're getting paid pretty well. But I wonder if that was the original designation for the referees, and they had to scramble to find other referees because there were a lot of things weird. A lot of offside calls. I actually went back and look. I'm not sure. I know there was a dash goal that Rachel Daly put in that was called offside, and she was saying either that she wasn't offside or that the ball going off the keeper negated her offside. I actually went back and looked at the laws, and I think the laws do state, and I hope I'm right about this, otherwise this is going to look really bad, that a deliberate save by the keeper does not indicate a new series of play. That is the one thing so if there's a shot and the keeper saves it and the player is still in an offside position, then it does not count. I'm sure someone will correct me and tell me I'm wrong and I'm an idiot and, oh my goodness, you're a referee, but I'm going out on a limb there.
Please send your Ted as an idiot emails to rfkrefugees@gmail.com.
But there was a lot of things like that. I think at one point on the end line, the ball very clearly went over the line, and the referees just kind of let play continue. And I think you can hear the Houston coach just kind of laughing about it. Let's get into the main story of the match is Andy Sullivan's. I think she had 2 fouls in that entire match.
Yeah, very
and she got a yellow card for both fouls. Let's talk about the first one. I don't know how much intent she had on that first one. I think the yellow was strictly for denying sort of a build-up. So the referee gives the yellow. I feel like it's common sense at that point. Even if you see something that may be a yellow, a warning is more appropriate. And there was no intent from Andy Sullivan, I thought, in that play. She was trying to clear the ball. Mishits is late, and the foul. And in most cases, I've seen referees, especially on a player that's yellow, be like, all right, that's it. You're on a yellow. Be careful.
Right. It's critical thinking time at that point.
Yeah, because it didn't end up. I guess maybe it doesn't change the outcome of the game at all. If maybe the Spirits will find a way, but at that point you're thinking you've inserted yourself into this game, and a player that has not been, fouling recklessly. There were plenty of Houston players that were being very physical in this game, to say the least. So.
Nichelle Prince snapped Kelly O'Hara in half in the 90th minute. Just folded her up like an accordion.
I think one of them like picked them up on like the top and like ran them into a table at one point. I'm pretty sure I saw that.
Yeah,
dropped them WWE
Prince
style.
came down from the rafters with a bat and some makeup. I don't know. It was a very very WWE situation. But and if you watch the replay too, after that foul, Kelly O'Hara is walking back. You can't see it because this is not going to be a video podcast, but Ted will see it. And Kelly was just like, Really? Come on. Really? Like he should, and just walking her up the field. So it got a little. There were 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 6 yellow cards given in that game, and I think there could have been 10.
Yeah, I even looked. I think there was a tackle on I forget whether it was Ashley Sanchez or Trinity Rodman or one of the players where I was like, you could, if VAR exists.
It was Trinity. It was Trinity because she was on the end line and she was laid in a crumpled heap afterwards. I wrote in the wrap up on the website is that if there's any justice right now, that Kelly O'Hara and Trinity Rodman have giant ice baths that they're hanging out in before they go to, because they were under siege the entire game, and I think they were both coming in with carrying injuries too. So this was they really had to get it out, and they were I don't know if they were targeted, but they were certainly facing it.
So let's talk about let's go to the goals. We actually have goals to talk about. Let's start with the first goal coming from Houston. Kind of a bad defensive giveaway. It was very clear at the beginning of the game that Houston was going to sit back, absorb pressure, hit on the counter, and the Spirit were going to try to possess, pass, move the ball. I think before the game they said that that Richie Burke wanted 60% possession and wanted a certain number. Like he wanted to see certain of those things, and they were doing that in the first half. They were passing, moving the ball. I felt it was again. I get into the habit of sometimes I don't like this style of play because you move slowly and teams are able to sort of react. And if you don't know when to move quickly and have the players with the skill set to do it. To maybe pick up that pace, then you're just going to be kind of predictable, and that's very you can give the ball all you want. That's going to be very easy to defend. So,
Nichelle Prince was torching the back line all night long. The play was the same. It was from deep lying midfield. They would play a ball diagonally across the back line and let Prince run past a static or even a moving defender. Kelly O'Hara got singed a number of times. There was no defenders that Sam Staub didn't do great with that. Emily Sonnet didn't do great with that. Huster did well. Pretty much all night, everywhere on the field. She continues to amaze me as a player that I feel like continually year to year they're like, all right, we're gonna bring in somebody else at right back. All right, we're gonna move her to midfield. And she just does well wherever she's at in the field, and they can't take her off. She just continues to provide value. But in this goal, it was really just a matter of, like you were talking about, needing to quickly react to the ball going the other direction. So reverse skate happened quickly, and they just blasted right past her and then put it in the net with a header from 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah. So then you're thinking, you're getting the. Oh crap! Here we go again. And the backdrop of this being a home game and taking place in Houston, you're thinking more drop points. This team is sliding down the table now. They have a home game. Fortunately, next week at Audi Field, which is a very very good thing. But you're thinking this is going to become the narrative. What happened at this game had been at home. What happened this game had been in a place where the team was comfortable. So then we get to around I think it was the 21st minute.
21st minute. Yep.
21st minute. Boom! Right on the money.
Right. Seriously.
How do you like me?
Blackjack.
Now? How do you like me now? This goal I think exemplifies. I've been waiting for a moment where Ashley Sanchez kind of really shows because I think she had an okay Challenge Cup, not a strong start to the season. And I almost got furious with her on this play because I thought she did a bad first touch, put herself way out of, pretty much took away any sort of positive angle that she had. But she shows that she's got incredible talent and plays the ball beautifully over the top. My wife called it all right, and I gave her a look. Like that's an incredibly hard shot to make. I don't care who you are, but a really, really nice goal from her. Good to see her have a moment, getting a goal. What did you think of the tying goal?
Yeah, I'll just read what I wrote this morning. Aside from the goal, Sanchez had an uneven game. She undoubtedly has talent and can elevate herself to do something that no one else on the field can do. Once she can keep her levels up for an entire 90 minutes, she will be impossible to play against, and the Spirit will have a dangerous player on their hands. As she gets there, though, scoring these goals are nice too. So I think, it depends. I think it's I think it's mental. I think it's mentality and it's focus, because what you'll often see, this didn't happen this game. What you'll often see is 45 minutes. The first 45 minutes, she will not impact the game. They will go into halftime and they will come back. Sometimes there's a tactical change, but other times it's just about the way she's playing, and she gets on the ball more and she controls play and she becomes a factor. So that to me says it's not physical. It's not necessarily tactical. It's about where her head is at from the jump. And I think that, you were talking about it before. Like there are comparisons to other DC United players in the past. There's comparisons to players that you've seen that can they will give you a little taste of something magic that if they could only do it all the time, they would be unplayable. But they don't. But she's so young. She has yet to have a full season at the pro level. She's had a interrupted first season, and now she's getting an opportunity every week to be. And also, she's not in anyone's shadow. There's no Rose Lavelle in midfield. She is. She's the woman for lack of a. That's what she's doing that right now. So,
and I think we saw in the Louisville game, and I don't think I brought this up. I think what Richie Burke is doing. She was playing kind of high up the field in the Challenge Cup, and she's kind of moved back, and now she's more in a sort of as the number 10. She's playing as sort of that creative midfielder. She's playing a little further back from the front line. And I think that is helping her game. She had a very, very strong game against Louisville. She was one of the better players out there on the field. And I think she had a strong game this time. I think there is still there are times, I think she had one shot that sailed above the bar. There was a couple other opportunities where I thought maybe if she finds that pass, it can be better. There's a little bit of, it's not not full Lucho, but I think there are some Lucho type tendencies I'm seeing from her. Lucho-esque tendencies, and I think I've brought that up before. I think Trinity Rodman didn't really have a strong game. I guess she's the other one to watch. I thought she did some nice things, incredible dribbling ability, but I think I didn't see there wasn't a specific moment, I guess, I can really identify where she got a good opportunity.
Yeah, her danger, it's weird to me. Like, her skill set is so varied, and it's interesting for a player of her age and a player playing in the position she is. She is incredibly dangerous and valuable having the ball with two people on her on the sideline, on the end line, trying to break pressure. She can dribble past people. She has body to hold people off. Scoring goals is great, and the runs she makes are fantastic, and that's all good. It's that she has this complete skill set, this physical skill set. I think if you talk to Richie all the time, her level that she needs to still improve is tactical and fitness. It's not the physical skill set. She's got that naturally. It's just there. Grant, she didn't even play a full college career, and she's already at that level she is. So really, it's just about time and reps, and her staying healthy and figuring out a way to protect her, because I think because she is so comfortable on the ball and she is so good at evading pressure, she's going to get kicked to death. So they've got to figure out a way to make sure that she can move the ball on and run away and go towards goal so that where they can't kick you.
And I think what we saw from this game is we saw that's the Dash's strategy was to just be physically imposing on her and to prevent her from being able to do what she can do well. And it worked to a certain extent. So I think that's going to be something to watch this year. Can she bring something else to her game? Can she get around that and still make an impact? And I think I'm willing to write off a lot of like poor performance in this game, because I'm sure this is like your third road game. You thought finally you're going to be at home. Now you got to get up and travel. So I'm writing off a couple performances. So we have the Andy Sullivan red card. We talked about that. So then we're thinking, okay, at that point it's like hold on for dear life.
40 minutes to keep a point, basically.
There was, I believe, a sub pretty early on. I think that
Natalie Jacobs came in for Tara Macchione, getting her first start. We got to talk. She's been the newcomer, getting her first start. Pretty awesome to see.
what did you make of her? I can't remember anything specific that she did.
I didn't either. No, I think the first half was about build-up play more than forward play for me. Ashley Hatch also did not make a big impact in the first half for me. So I don't think, just the way the game was going, she didn't get an opportunity to really make a markup. I'd love to watch the game again and see if I missed something with her. But good first shift. Didn't really I didn't see her do anything wrong. But it was interesting that sort of Natalie Jacobs is an interesting player because for the Spirit she has played right back. She's played higher up in the midfield. She's played on the right. I think she's played on the right side of midfield, and now was in this particular case was playing deeper lying midfield, and we'll just transition here to the next part. She was key in that she made that goal happen. So in the what minute was that? I don't want to get that minute wrong.
70th, I believe 70th minute.
70th minute. The game really kind of did come out of nowhere. The pressure obviously was on for Houston at that point. They didn't look super dangerous, but they had a couple chances where Bledsoe made a couple of very nice saves in close. But she is in a very deep position in the midfield, picks a ball up over the top, Stoke on a rainy day style over the top long ball, and Ashley Hatch runs it down, does a Fernando Torres like against Barca in the Champions League dribble around and placed it in the net, and a 2-1 lead that sort of came out of nowhere. I think that Houston accused the team, the Spirit, of parking the bus and was basically calling them unsporting in their post game. And I was like, get out of here with that. A, they were not until they got a red card. B, if they were parking the bus, they scored and they beat you. So shut up about that.
A, yeah, you're down to 10 men. What else you want them to go forward? B, you guys were parking that was y'all's method for the first 20, 30 minutes of that game was to sit back and absorb pressure. Yeah, get out.
Sour grapes. I think I posted a GIF to make fun of it. So I was not impressed.
I'm ready for a rival with the Spirit. I want a team to dislike.
Who we hate. Maybe we gotta find out who we hate. We're new here. We gotta find somebody to hate.
Well, I think there needs. I guess other than Portland and OL Reign, I don't think, because that's just a natural Portland Seattle rivalry. I don't know if there are any specific NWSL rivalries yet. Have we had time for that to even develop?
And I think even that, I don't know if you saw this week that Megan Rapinoe scored against Portland, and she came, and she basically was WWE style healing in front of the fans, giving them the Rowdy Piper ear in front. She was like, boo me. You need to hate me. The problem here is come here and you love me, but I'm playing against you and I'm trying to beat you. So you need to hate me, and I'm going to make you hate me. And I was like, cool. I like it.
That is something that I think the NWSL, I'm hopeful that is something that evolves as these teams stick around. I think the large problem is that there hasn't been a women's league that stayed around for long enough for those types of things to develop. I went out to games, and it's very much still it's very much about the players that are out there. People go to Spirit. I think I went to Spirit versus Reign game, and most people out there to see Megan Rapinoe.
Right. I think the player movement doesn't help either. I think the fact that players are moving all over the place with new teams forming and moving around does not give you the ability to sort of set down roots and be like, I miss Spirit. I guess that's Houston's that, but as far as other than that, there aren't those players for teams. So I think as the league grows, more teams becomes more stable. They don't need to have, although early MLS, they're going to have stupid expansion drafts every year for a million years. So maybe my thing will be 15 years down the road, but.
I think the important thing with anything, I subscribe to the Jason Davis theory of soccer teams, which is just to exist, be a part of that community, be there. You start to develop more of those local ties. I think the Spirit have seen a boost in attendance and sort of fandom in the past few years. So I think that's something that'll come. But the Spirit don't have much time to rest. They play Sunday against the OL Reign. Almost no time. Yeah, they got to do another game, and then they're back the next week. Finally, an actual home game at Audi Field, Sunday 2 p.m. against the Orlando Pride. So a rematch of their 1-1 draw. So
yeah,
maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance for some rivalry there. I don't like Orlando fans. I'm the most hated podcaster in Orlando.
That's true. We're a wanted man. Alex Morgan. I don't want to play the Pride right now because Alex Morgan is liquid magma on fire. So that is unfortunate. I don't know if the international play starts. I don't know. I know that Sullivan, Sonnet, and O'Hara were called up. I don't know when that starts, but I'm hoping somehow we miss Alex Morgan.
Yeah, they're the league leaders right now. Really funny with the standings. You have the 2020 NWSL college not college Challenge Cup champion Houston Dash, bottom of the table. North Carolina, the perennial powers for the past few years, ninth. FC Kansas City, Portland Thorns are seventh right now. So I mean, there is. It's early. It's very, very early. I expect some of those to change.
Yeah.
But
tear up your preview. It didn't happen. No one asked what your predictions were. I think North Carolina last week lost for the first time inside in their home stadium, and it couldn't have been ever, but it was. It was ever, but it was a rare occasion for them. So this early season, I don't know if it was the long preseason that's sort of skewing it a little bit. Again, player movement again is a constant in this league. Team physical movement. There's it could be a lot of things, but overall, happy to see the spirit. I know we were both tweeting through the game like this team needed some goals to fall because they are creating chances. They're not being rewarded, and if you do that over and over enough times, you begin to feel like you're snake bitten, and it's not going to happen for you. And you could say what you want about mentality, and a lot of these players. I know Ashley Hatch. We talked to her in the preseason. She's like, I got a sports psychologist. Like I'm processing these things at all time, and I'm preparing to have the right mindset no matter what the situation is in the game or with the fans. But if you continually do not get rewarded for your hard work, it begins to mess with you. And it's good that they got this opportunity in a non-great situation. It is unfortunate that we're not going to have Andy for Sunday. She is pretty pivotal, particularly in an 11-11 matchup where both teams are trying to score. And I can tell you that OL Reign are going to try to score. It is not going to be a bunker game for them. So it would be better for us to have our defense at our full strength and all of our assets. But you got to do what you can do. I think if you manage to get out of that game with a draw, you're doing great. If this is a 4-point week, excellent, fantastic. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to come out to set up. I don't see Richie Burke as the kind of player, kind of coach setting out for a draw, even on the road. But we'll see. We'll see in the lineup, and then we'll see in the style of play what they're trying to do. But I'm excited to see it. So make sure you guys Paramount Plus on Sunday.
Paramount Plus on Sunday, yes. I know it moves between Twitch, Paramount Plus, CBS. It moves all over the place. But definitely check that out. Speaking of generating chances with no goals, DC United is going to have maybe a little bit more trouble doing that. Injury reports came out. We were all kind of waiting with bated breath about what was going to happen to DC United's designated player, Edison Flores. He is out for 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. The dreaded hamstring injuries. Everybody got your hamstring injury bottle of alcohol to take a shot right now. Do it.
It used to be sports hernias, and now it's hamstrings.
It used to be sports hernias, now it's hamstrings. Couple of things about this. So I think from a game perspective, and also Drew Skundrits also looks like he might be done for the year. Might need meniscus surgery. That's a really, really bad loss for the team. A player who kind of really stepped up and I thought did really, really well in that role. Will say,
and his wife knows about a meniscus injury too. That was what kept her out last year. So I'm sure he knows a good surgeon. I'm hoping. I think unless they've changed the news, they said they're going to give him 10 days to see where it's at. Have they already announced that he's going in for surgery?
I think they said they were going. I don't think it's been official yet. They're going to see,
but probably where it is. Usually meniscus, unless you've got a very, very slight tear, they're probably just going to snip it. And then I think full year potentially it could be 2-3 months. Depends. It really depends. They won't know until they open him up, really, probably, or not open him up. They don't open his kneecap up, but you know what I'm saying, cut him open.
Yeah, hopefully it's not for the end of the year because I think he is on sort of a 1-year contract with an option. So I mean that's got to be devastating for him.
Gets his chance. Has a ridiculous opportunity to start over and over and over again for an MLS team. Yeah, feel bad for the guy. The week he's featured in the Washington Post again with his wife. It was all coming up, Drew, and then knee injury.
Yeah, and Edison Flores out for 6 weeks. This one, I think so. If Edison Flores is going to get injured, it's a bad thing. Bad thing regardless. You're 100%. You were saying to me, but I will say that from a DC perspective and match perspective, Edison Flores was going to be gone for 6 weeks with international duty. Now, that's not to say that I think it's a good thing that he got injured. Absolutely, 100% not. It's bad for a lot of reasons, especially because he was finally starting to gain some momentum. He was finally starting to show at least some signs that maybe he's worth that $5 million price tag. And now it's kind of almost like starting over again. He's going to be unable to sort of keep that fitness up, playing with the Peru national team. He's going to be unable to train with DC. for that time period. So basically, he's kind of starting over again. And that's really sad and really same. I think from the DC perspective, I will say they showed in Philadelphia that they can still generate chances. The real problem with this team right now is finishing. And they can generate chances, and I think the next 2 games against Miami are very, very winnable games without Edison Flores. So I'm not worried about the next 2 games. I may be worried about this team in the future, what this team is going to look like. I wonder if this changes any perspectives of what the team is going to do this summer. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the overall picture for DC.
Yeah, I think it's good that Paul is back now. I think having Paul and Julian to be able
100%.
to figure out where you're going to play, who you're going to put in that position, keeps Julian back on the right wing back side and lets Paul sort of float around and do his thing. I think if he gets hurt, like if he has any sort of and he's coming back from a long-term layoff, and then also the weird stop and start season in England. So I think that'll be something to watch. It will be this team is now getting bodies back, but they really cannot afford. They need to sustain that amount of. They need to sustain their good players and let them be here and let them play. So hopefully they can stay healthy. I think you mentioned these 2 games coming up. I think 4 points for me would be your optimum scenario. I think that they're certainly a team you match up well against. I don't think with our offensive woes at the moment, it's a hard bet to think that we're going to figure out how to outscore them twice. But maybe it could turn at any time, right? I think the chances are being created, so it's really just a matter of luck, just like with the Spirit, getting some confidence and getting some lucky bounces. But hopefully that's soon. Yeah. Hopefully that's this weekend.
Hopefully that's soon. Hopefully that's this weekend. I'm curious, as far as a front 3 goes, I guess I'm thinking probably Adrian Perez, probably Paul Arriola. Who's your third guy out there at this point?
That's a good question. I don't.
Maybe Jordi Reyna makes.
Maybe I think he's gonna. No, I bet you he comes off as a sub. I bet you after his layoff they're gonna want to build him back. I think maybe Yamil Assad makes his return.
Maybe that might be your only option. Out. Yeah, that might be your only option. Here's your chance, Yamil. Go for it. So
yeah, I mean
we'll see.
In an optimal
that front 3 is
situation,
going to be one to watch again. So
yeah. I mean, it's better to have that, and it's so weird, isn't it? Weird that Adrian Perez is now just like the first name on the team sheet from that perspective. You're just like, yeah, obviously he starts. Like, of course he does. But it's true right now. You can't take him off the field because of he is not scoring goals, and I think you and I both had an issue with his shot selection against Philadelphia, but he's doing everything that Hernan wants, and he just like Drew was like these are system players. These are guys that are. He's like, here are 5 things you got to do, and they're doing them all to a T. So coaches love players that do what they tell them to do.
I think this is an opportunity for him. He becomes now that him and Paul become kind of that focal point. They need to be the ones generating those chances and figuring out how to put the ball in the back of the net. And you've got a good opportunity against a very, very, very suspect defense in Miami. Ryan Shawcross, I'm sure, is a fine player, but going up against the humidity. The only real thing that concerns me about Miami is Federico Higuain. Other than that, I'm not worried about him. Maybe Gonzalo Higuain, but I think he is going to have a huge problem with DC's press. I think DC's press is going to give him nightmares on Saturday if they bring that. They bring that style. Federico Higuain is the only one that really concerns me of the players out there. No one else on that team. They're playing Breck Shea out there. I'm sorry. They got Breck Shea starting. I'm really not worrying. Like I think 4 points would be good out of these next 2 matches against Miami. I think this team could very possibly walk out of here with 6 points. They could win on the road against Miami. They can have a whole 2 weeks and then they come back home and take 3 more points. So I think we're going to see a much better summer, even sans Edison Flores, because the schedule's getting a little better. So, but I think go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'm trying to remember. I made a bet when we were doing this. I bet a draw. So maybe when I think we're talking 4 points, I think maybe the draw is away and the win is at home. That's mostly what I'm thinking.
That's probably a fair bet there. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it for this show. But do it for our segment reviewing the Spirit game. Stick around. I'm not sure what our preview sections are going to look like for the game. If we're doing Instagram Live, we're going to maybe give Twitter Spaces another. We'll do something. We'll figure out something. But definitely check out our preview of the Miami game that's coming up next. Thank you guys, and
enjoy.
Yeah, let's enjoy that. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Well, welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here, and we are joined by a very, very special guest, Franco Panizo. He is the founder of the Miami Total Futbol podcast covering all things Inter Miami and a beat writer for SBI Soccer. Franco, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on. Apologies for the delay. The Europa League final got me a little caught up there. I lost track of time.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of excited watching it. I set this interview for 5:30, thinking, oh, it'll be over by then. Surely it'll be over by then. But apparently, this is a never-ending penalty kick final.
No, I think if we waited, we would probably have to record this on Friday because I think they're just going to keep doing loops now. I think that's how it's going to go.
We might have to record. after
there
the
you
game
go.
on Saturday.
You're right.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into it, Franco. Let's talk a little bit about Inter Miami. If I had to put a number on it, I think Inter Miami came into the league and they were like, okay, you know how like there've been some tumultuous like openings for like teams. We're going to top all of that because good gracious was the first year, obviously coming in the middle of the pandemic, which is never fun. Never fun to have a global, once in a lifetime pandemic interrupt your inaugural season. Then you had a disappointing season, I guess, compared to expectations. You had a coach, your former coach, whose name escapes me at the moment, said went to a meeting that went so bad he thought he'd been fired. Then they said no, he hasn't been fired. And then Beckham goes and hires one of his old chums in Phil Neville. Then you guys get slapped by the league. What is happening right now with Miami? I feel like it's like, what's the next shoe to drop? Like, what is there going to be like 5 DPs? Is Zlatan going to come onto the pitch as like an unregistered sub? I mean, I have no clue what's next for this team.
Well, yeah, it hasn't been the smoothest of sailing for Inter Miami since they've begun. A lot of missteps, a lot of issues. I think a lot of it goes back to the initial year, the inaugural year, and they're still trying to work their way out of that. But they're still waiting to find out what happens with what I call and what I've been dubbing as Matuidi Gate, which is obviously them having 4 DPs and the punishment that is bound to happen. MLS has obviously announced at the beginning of the season that there would be sanctions coming. Don Garber said at halftime of the season opener here in South Florida that announcements would come within the next week, and well, obviously they still have not. So we're still waiting to see what happens for Inter Miami in that regard. But I mean, I've been of the belief, I've said it on the podcast, I've said it on Twitter and in my coverage, I fully expect it to be I expect the hammer to come down pretty hard on Inter Miami, because if MLS has gone to the trouble of making this a very public thing, then I don't think it'll just be a fine or anything of the like. I think there will be more severe punishments coming.
You're gonna get relegated, Franco. Sorry.
I did have a buddy that's like, oh, they're going to lose points, relegation. Just joking, obviously can't get relegated in MLS. But I mean, a points deduction would be massive, I think, and would be interesting, because I don't believe, and I'd have to go back and really check, but I don't believe that's ever happened in MLS.
They'll wait till you guys. They'll wait till it's like 5 games left in the season, then they'll dock you 25 points. Like, and I'm saying like it's maybe that you guys are like 12th in the table or something, already out of it. They'll be like, yeah, you guys 100-point deduction. You're super last place. That'll be the move.
Well,
I mean, we'll see what Don Garber says, but yeah. I mean, my family are season ticket holders. I have friends that are season ticket holders. I'm obviously born and raised in the South Florida area. I'm a proud South Floridian. But I know you guys keep saying you guys, but I'm not a fan of the team. I just cover the team. I do really like their colors. I do really like their logo, but I'm not a fan of the team. I don't consider myself a fan of the team. So yeah, not you guys.
What would you, if you're Don Garber and you're trying to hand down a punishment? I mean, are you just going with a points deduction? What do you think would be like a fair punishment for this? Because it essentially, I mean, it didn't necessarily turn out very successful for Inter Miami. I mean, they barely made the playoffs. But
just because you cheat badly, Ted, doesn't mean you get off punishment.
well, I mean, but so what would you assess as sort of a fair punishment for this? Is it allocation money, points deductions, like you said? If you're Don Garber, what do you do?
So, I mean, that's what I've heard is the holdup, and that's what they're trying to figure out is what is an appropriate punishment for this. Obviously, it's largely unprecedented, or it's just is unprecedented. Again, I don't recall this in my 10 plus years of covering MLS, and I don't, from my knowledge of history of Major League Soccer, I don't think anything like this has happened before. So, I mean, what I think could be a possibility, and I've mentioned this, is because I didn't think a points deduction would do it. I thought a points deduction, given that it happened last season, I thought that would be more fitting to have, take points during the actual season. It happens. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the idea of punishing them retroactively, especially when the coach and the sporting director that are in charge now were not in charge of that a year ago. So while I could see that being the case, I thought a transfer ban in addition to a fine or a loss of allocation money would make sense. You maybe one window, the summer window, or an off-season window, the winter window. You stop the team from being able to sign anyone from abroad. Maybe in MLS, you would still allow them to make moves because an outright transfer ban or an outright acquisition ban is pretty tough to get through in MLS, given how the structure of the league is. So, I think an international transfer ban would make sense in addition to maybe some allocation money loss and maybe a personal fine as well from the ownership.
Yeah, international ban will hurt them where they sit because that's the type of player that they're looking to bring in. So that's if they're going to bother some way. Right.
I think
no splashy names.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense just because obviously this is, they had 4 DPs. There were 4 international players. They're a team that wants to go into the international market. Most teams in Major League Soccer at this point are tapping into the foreign market in some way, shape, or form, be it, spending a lot or spending a little bit. So I think that would make sense. And I think it would make a big statement while also not completely handicapping Inter Miami, which is a team that, I mean, if we're being honest, is one of the bigger, flashier teams in Major League Soccer. And, we've seen the treatment that the LA Galaxy have gotten in the past. And I would expect them that they want to punish Inter Miami, but they don't want to completely ruin their chances of being somewhat competitive because they know that at the end of the day, the Inter Miami brings them a lot of attention.
It's true. Ted made an earlier mention about what's coming next, and he mentioned an unregistered sub. And I feel like as a DC United podcast, we should never mention unregistered subs because we're the only people to have done that in the last few years in MLS, unfortunately. Anyway, let's talk about your coach, Phil Neville. I think that was an interesting hire. Comes from the English women's national team where he left under, I would say, not necessarily a cloud, but I think there were some. I think he made some comments about the job and about how sort of he was waiting for his next bigger job in the men's game, basically, sort of the implication. How is he settled into the club, and what are the takeaways from sort of the way he wants to set his team up and play, and if he has the pieces that he wants to be able to do what he wants to do?
So I had a question similar to this on the podcast this week from a fan, a listener, and they asked me something similar. What is the takeaway, or how do I rate the Phil Neville and his coaching staff? And I mean, I'm not a person that likes to sit on the fence or not give a direct answer, but at this point, I think it's too early to really tell. I mean, in the preseason, he came out saying he wanted a high pressing, possession based team, and they have not been that. I asked him actually maybe a couple weeks ago or maybe a few weeks ago, about that because the team wasn't playing in that manner. And he said, look, the player profiles that we've got, sometimes you've got to adjust as a coach. So they have adjusted and they have not been a possession-based team. They've been more kind of a counter-attacking team. But even with that, the performances, some of the most recent performances have been pretty poor. The team is struggling really to build out and struggling in the face of a high press. So if I'm DC United and I've watched some game film, I'm Hernan Losada, I'm completely high pressing Inter Miami over the weekend because they haven't shown an ability to be able to play through pressure on a consistent basis. But as for Phil Neville, I think the jury's still out as to what he can do. Again, there's a lot of players he has on this team that don't necessarily fit the way he wants to play, surely. And like, you know how it works in MLS. When new coaches come in, it takes a transfer window 2-3 to really get rid of pieces that you have on your roster that you might not want, and then to bring in the ones that you do want. So I would say he's shown some good things as well tactically. You know, he's made the defense slightly better. There's been a dip in those performances as of late, but a little bit more organized defensively, a little bit tighter defensively, with more signings coming on the way in the summer. But the attack has been lacking, but that's also something that we saw last year. So it's still to be determined what his overall rating.
I think Hernan does not know anything but high press. So I think that no matter who the team is, that's just the way he's going to set it up.
Yeah, Inter Miami's in trouble.
Maybe so. I think, too, you were talking about the players maybe not fitting the style. Are you saying Gonzalo Higuain's not good as a high press forward? Are you saying he's not an active pressing defensive forward? That's surprising to me. Go ahead.
Well, that's right. No, that's spot on. It's actually one of the first questions I had for, and you mentioned this earlier, the former head coach Diego Alonso last year when they signed Gonzalo Higuain, because Diego Alonso was a coach that liked to high press. He said that publicly. You would see it in games. He would try to high press, even though it looked a little bit disorganized at times. And I asked him, I think that was one of the first questions I asked him. I was like, you know, you like to high press and you're getting Gonzalo Higuain, who's a player who's older in his career, who's not a player that's been high energy. So how does that affect your ability to press? And, you know, he gave me a pretty diplomatic answer. And but you saw with that, you know, last season, and you've seen it this season, Gonzalo Higuain does not press. He does not press often or much at all. Like on occasion, he'll have like fits of energy and he'll try, but it's few and far between. And because of that, Inter Miami has, you know, somebody else has to pick up the workload. And for me, it kind of has a trickle down effect, and it doesn't allow the team to really be good in the press defensively, which is why they've had to, you know, maybe sit in a more defensive posture and try to defend as an organized and cohesive group, as opposed to high pressing up the field to try to win the ball and get turnovers.
I believe what us larger gentlemen who play sports call it, he's being economical with his runs. He's keeping them in reserve. Just as a quick aside, former DC United legend Federico Higuain, he of like 6 sub appearances, actually appears to have a role with Inter Miami. Seems to be linking up with his brother. Has started, I believe, one of your early games, and he hadn't started, I think, it's since 2019. Before that, how is he looking? Obviously, he is an addition to his brother, another elderly gentleman from Argentina, but he has a bit of magic still. I think that's undeniable when you watched him in his brief time with DC, but also in his spell with Miami. What's the read on him so far?
Yeah, he's had actually a very good season. I mean, this last game, notwithstanding, the last game was probably his worst game. But again, the team in general was very poor. By the way, Villarreal has won on penalty kicks, so spoiler.
David De Gea missed the penalty, right? Goalie on goalie.
I didn't see the.
That's what it was.
I'm okay. Goalie on goalie crime. No, but so Federico's arguably been the best player for Inter Miami this season. He initially started off with a super sub role and was starting to make a difference. Looked livelier and moved the ball better than Rodolfo Pizarro, who's been playing as predominantly the number 10 for Inter Miami since dating back to last year. I had thought after the first couple of sub appearances, or the first 3, I was fully on board with saying that Federico Higuain needed to start, given how much his performances were making an impact and how Rodolfo Pizarro was struggling. And he eventually did get into the starting lineup. He showed some good things against FC Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago, but then again against Chicago Fire, he struggled a bit. You know, Phil Neville, we had asked him about Federico maybe a week and a half ago now, and he said something along the lines of, given where he is at this point in his career, he's 36 years old. They've had to work him harder. You know, there's older players that maybe their bodies can't handle an increased workload, but Federico apparently can, and they've given him more work in practice and since preseason to try to maintain and raise his level. So it looks like that's worked, because he's played well, he's shown well, and I think many people would say he's been arguably the best player for Inter Miami at this early point in the season. Obviously, we're still only a few weeks in, but he's definitely. I mean, if he's not the best player of the season for Inter Miami, he's definitely in the podium, top 3 for sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy how his talents and his skills. I mean, it was the same way with DC when he would come onto the field. There was a noticeable change in how well that team played, and it was kind of sad to see him go. I kind of wonder maybe how he would do under oh my goodness. Losada, thank you. Oh my gosh, how he would do under Losada?
He's watching the penalty kick. He's watching the penalty.
Yes,
he's gonna dub. Ted's gonna dub Hernan Losada like a.
No, man, I'm gonna leave it in, man. People need to know your
warts
humans.
and all.
Losada as opposed to Olsen, but you mentioned that Federico Higuain has kind of replaced Rodolfo Pizarro. He's sort of the next player I want to talk about. I mean, I feel like we're just gonna hit on your. On the designated players for this team because, you know, they were relatively, when they were announced, were big signings, and Pizarro was one of those. And it just seems like it really hasn't worked out. Is it a case of being misused? Is it a case of just not fitting with the players? Is it a coaching issue? What do you contend is sort of the issue? Get into the head of Pizarro and why it's not working out.
Yeah. So it's tough because, you know, given how things are with Zoom right now and not being able to talk to players regularly, and you know, players being designated for interviews X amount of times a month or a season, it's hard to really get answers as to what's going on with him. But if, like you said, if I was to get in his head or try to give you my analysis from the outside, I would say there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things going on with Rodolfo Pizarro. He was brought on, let's start with last year. He was brought on by Diego Alonso. They had a tight relationship. Diego Alonso had coached them twice before at 2 different teams in Mexico before Pizarro came to Miami. So Alonso was like, hey, I want him on my team. Let's make it happen. He was the first big signing, you know, quote, if you want to consider him a big signing in terms of just like the caliber in Mexican international. But, you know, he started well last year, and then his form kind of dipped. Obviously, this season, it just hasn't really clicked at all. And he's struggled for some time now to have a really influential game or a game where he really leaves his stamp on things. Maybe the game against the LA Galaxy at the start of the year, that was a solid one for him. But, again, it's just been very inconsistent, and he hasn't really influenced games like you would need from a DP player, especially when it's playing as your number 10. I'm of the belief, I've said this time and time again, I don't think he's a number 10. I think playing him there is not to the best of his abilities. I don't think he has the vision nor the qualities to be a number 10. I think, you know, maybe throwing him out on the left as an inverted winger or dropping him into an 8 role, I think those spots would better fit the qualities that he has, because I just don't see him as a 10. Now, you know, I think there's a bunch of things, like I said before. I think maybe he's lacking motivation, or there's lack of confidence as well, or he's not feeling at home either in South Florida or on the team. Again, I don't know. It's just what I perceive. My pod mate, Steve Brenner, who unfortunately could not make it on here today, has reported that Inter Miami does want to move him, that they do not rate him. This current regime does not rate Rodolfo Pizarro. And that's something that, you know, we've kind of seen in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, this past week he was out with a reported mild injury. That's what the team said. But the week before, he was dropped from the lineup completely because, you know, they just wanted to go with Federico Higuain and see that look on the field. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do with him. I can't imagine his market value is really high right now. I can't imagine there's too many teams clamoring to sign him, but I would imagine that his time with Inter Miami comes to a close sooner rather than later, because his performances just haven't been there. Especially, like you guys know, you guys have followed MLS for a while. You need your number 10 to really perform in Major League Soccer, especially if it's a designated player. You need that player to perform on an almost weekly basis, a very consistent basis. And for Inter Miami, that just
you wouldn't know anything about that here in DC.
Yeah.
Very on.
You had a Wayne Rooney in there. I know he's not a 10, but you know he performed and he made his things.
It is true. Since then, it's been a bit more of a rocky road, but yeah, absolutely, you're right. I think that's the way the MLS roster construction sort of lends itself. You have to get value out of those cash positions. Let's talk about so Inter had a game they would like to forget, most likely against Chicago, or at least your goalie, or Mr. McCarthy had a game he'd like to forget. Coming off of that obviously DC beat Chicago by the same scoreline in the reverse. It was 1-0, right, Ted? I'm now forgetting everything.
Yes, correct. Yes.
So coming off of that, I imagine they're out for blood here. That's a game that they probably would not have thought they should have lost. What is the team looking at going into this game? Are they generally pretty healthy? Are they ready to? I want to know how scared to be as a DC United fan. How much is this team going to be out for blood after sort of an embarrassing loss against a pretty bad team in Chicago?
I imagine they'll be chomping at the bit, and what will help them and what will not necessarily help DC United is that this weekend's game here in South Florida at Drive Pink Stadium will be the first one that is operating at full capacity since ever. So for the first time in the team's short history, it'll be the first time they'll have the stadium at full capacity. I don't know if it'll be a sellout, but the stadium will be fully open, so there should be as big of a turnout as there's ever been for an Inter Miami MLS game. Now, as for what to expect on the field from the team, again, I think that they'll be upset. They are healthier now than they have been in a while. They just lost Robbie Robinson again, the young left winger who re-aggravated his left hamstring apparently over the weekend. So he's probably a scratch, but Leandro Gonzalez Pires, he's healthy, but he's a scratch due to yellow card accumulation, the MLS veteran. But besides that, everyone else should be healthy and available. As far as we know today, Wednesday, tomorrow we'll be able to attend practice and we'll have availability with Phil Neville and a couple of the players. So we'll know more tomorrow, but as of right now, you can expect a fairly healthy team that's almost at full strength and that will be looking to make amends or bounce back from that poor performance in Chicago. But again, I think, unless Phil Neville has come up with a masterful plan B for how to build out, I think Inter Miami is going to have difficulties because they haven't shown really into the last 3 games much of anything from a performance standpoint. It's been really pretty lackluster. Now they were able to build out against FC Cincinnati. They didn't play as direct. They made sure to force the issue even under pressure, and it worked. But that is FC Cincinnati we're talking about. And I don't think anyone that's followed MLS for the last 2 seasons and change has any misconceptions about FC Cincinnati being, a pretty low quality team in the league. So, again, if DC United can press them, I think DC United, will set themselves up for success, unless Inter Miami can come up with a way to make things work from the run of play in a different way, because with the high press, they've struggled. And, even when they try to play long and direct, it just hasn't clicked. It hasn't worked. They don't win 50-50 balls consistently enough. They don't win second balls consistently enough. And they've struggled by and large. So we'll see what their game plan is. I'm very curious to see how they approach the game, because I think there are question marks about certain players like Blaise Matuidi at this point in his career. So we'll see how Inter Miami approaches the game. Maybe we'll get some more answers tomorrow.
Yeah, I contend that Cincinnati is like the Orlando, the new Orlando, in the case that they're now going to be like everybody's sleeper pick. Oh, they could surprise some people. Look at all the money they're spending, and they're just a disaster. So
yeah, don't listen to our preview show we did with Cincy Soccer Talk after.
Oh yeah, they were all.
Don't listen to that. There's certainly no evidence of us being optimistic about that team whatsoever.
But talking a little bit about the stadium situation in Miami. Obviously, you guys have a temporary facility out there in Fort Lauderdale. I find it kind of funny that your USL2 team is a better representation of where you play than your MLS team, which is it's usually the exact opposite. Looking at you, Bethlehem Steel FC. So is there, I remember the stadium was supposedly the deal was done, everything was going to happen. Then it hit some hangups. I know there's a whole plan for like a downtown stadium. This is not meant to be like a permanent facility, for Inter Miami. What is the latest on that? If is there movement? Is there, is that something that's going to be started soon, or is there a holdup in the ever crazy Miami politics?
Yeah, so it seems like the latter. It seems like there is a holdup. Seems like they're just trying to figure out the final details. Co-owner Jorge Mas, who's a local guy, told us back in February that in 4 to 6 weeks they expected a deal to be done so that they could present to the city commissioners or the county commissioners, and that didn't happen. So when we spoke to him again in early April, he said similar timeline, 4 to 6 weeks, 45 to 60 days. Still has not happened. They've released new renderings as of late, which are nice and pretty. Anytime you see MLS stadium renderings, it's always nice to look at. But I imagine that there's still a bit of a ways away, regardless of what's being said publicly, because they still haven't gotten there. And even getting to this next step doesn't guarantee anything. They still have to get the votes from the local government. So I think it's a good ways away. I think where they are in Fort Lauderdale is not bad. I mean, obviously, it's a temporary home. That's what they keep saying. But I think it's where they're going to train, even long term, even when they start playing games in Miami, if and when that happens. So it's not a bad solution or not a bad fix for now. But we'll see what happens on that front, because we know how tough the politics in Miami can be. And look, I think what hasn't helped them as well is the pandemic, right? So that kind of put a halt to their plans and has kind of changed the landscape a little bit, because everything, economically has taken a hit or been impacted. So I think that has definitely affected things or slowed things down and made things a little more difficult for them in that regard. But we'll see. They continue to be optimistic publicly. But as you guys know, it does take time, even in cities or in markets where the governments are more willing, or it's a little bit easier to maneuver in. Even then, it can take a pretty long time. So I remember going to DC United games at RFK before being able to switch to Audi Field, which I think is a nice little stadium there. But we'll see what happens. They remain optimistic. We'll see. I think it's going to take some time, though.
City politics are always easy. Come on, what are you talking about? Doesn't take 20 years to get a stadium deal done.
Does your guy have a machete? That was a key element for us on our victory.
I don't think they have a machete.
I think that's better. I think that's more on brand for the locale than saying a machete. Whatever, it worked out, I guess.
So we know about sort of the big name players on your team. Blaise Matuidi, you've talked about. Who's a player maybe that you think doesn't maybe get the attention that he deserves on the roster? Who's a player, maybe an up and coming player that you think DC fans watching this game should look out for?
So I will say I'm going to give you two. And one is a fairly recent signing, so MLS as a whole is not that familiar with him. Inter Miami fans are still getting to know him, but I've liked what I've seen from him. I think he'd also be in that podium of top 3 players for Inter Miami on the season so far, and that is Gregory, who is the Brazilian defensive midfielder, the number 6 for Inter Miami that they signed this offseason. I think he's played and shown some interesting things. Maybe not the best passer at times, but hard-nosed, makes his presence felt. Someone that sporting director Chris Henderson wanted when he was with the Seattle Sounders, when he was in the front office of the Seattle Sounders. He comes from Bahia in Brazil, and he's shown some good things. He's at a good point in his career. I think he's 26, 27. The exact number escapes me at the moment, but he's in that window or in that time frame. So someone that should be hitting his prime over the next few years. And I've liked what I've seen for him so far. I think it's only going to get better as he gets more used to MLS and more used to his surroundings and teammates and Phil Neville's tactics. And the other one I would say is someone that was around last year that had very good moments, but also some poor moments, but this year has shown pretty well as well. When he has played, he's just come off an injury, and that's versatile veteran defender, Nicolas Figal. He can play right back. He can play center back. He's more of a natural center back. I think maybe we'll see him there this weekend, given Leandro Gonzalez Pirez's suspension, but there's also a chance he could play right back, where he helped make the difference against the Philadelphia Union in Inter Miami's Week 2 victory. I really like what I've seen from him dating back to last year. Again, he's had some mistakes. He's had some issues. I actually did a feature on him at the start of this season. In preseason, I spoke to him, had a good, nice chat with him, and he said things affected him off the field last year that hurt his level, but that he was fully focused and coming into this year with a completely different approach. And, so far we've seen that on the field by and large, and Phil Neville has raved about him on more than one occasion, and he's called him an out-and-out winner and loves his mentality. And I think we'll see more of that as long as he can stay healthy, because again, he suffered like a hamstring tweak before the week 3 game against Nashville, I believe. And he just came back from that by playing in the second half against the Chicago Fire. I thought he was one of the very few players for Inter Miami that really, really showed something. So I would say him and Gregory. Again, these aren't young players necessarily. These are players that are more a little bit more experienced, that are in their late 20s maybe. But I think that they're both players that MLS fans will become more familiar with as the season goes on, because they're two players that have some pretty good quality to them.
All right, Franco. Well, we're coming towards the end of the show, but before you leave, let's look at the money line, and you seem pretty down on Miami's chances. So I'm looking at the plus 375 money line for DC to win, and I'm thinking that might be a pretty good bet. So let's get a prediction, and people can use that as betting advice for MLS based on your prediction.
Yeah, look, I call it like I see it, and right now Inter Miami's in a bad way, in my opinion. 2 of the last 3 games, they've been shut out. They've gotten in 2 of those 3 games finished with 1 shot on target. The other game they won in the final minutes, 3-2 against FC Cincinnati. So they're not in a good way right now. I think the function of the team is not in a good way. I think, however, that having, I don't know if it'll be a sellout crowd, but having as many fans as has been in Dry Pink Stadium, I think that will help. I think that'll push them on to put up a little bit more fight than they did against the Chicago Fire, when the mentality and the effort were, admittedly by their own admission, not there, or not to the levels that they needed it at. So I'm going to say they'll be better, but I'm not sure if they win. I think a draw. 1-1 draw with DC United. Maybe 2-2, but obviously I'm not going to hedge my bet. So I'll just say 1-1 draw with DC United this weekend.
Our guest steals my bet and my prediction. That's
I'm going
unacceptable.
This team has shown an incredible ability to shut out opponents offensively. I know that you guys have a lot of talent. I'm sure I'll eat these words, and Gonzalo Higuain will punish, and especially Federico Higuain could punish DC because he's none too happy with the team. I'm going to 1-0 DC United victory. I think I'm thinking we pick up 3 points here.
You just like those odds. I think it was plus 240 for a draw, so that's where I feel comfortable. I think 1-1 1-1's reasonable. DC does not give up a lot of goals now after, again, the game that we do not mention in San Jose or Columbus. We don't mention either of those games now, but they're playing defensively well. Teams are having a real problem establishing an offense against them, but they're also not scoring very well anymore. So I think 1-1 seems reasonable. We'll lock it up.
All right, Franco.
I think I said 2-1 on my podcast. Now I'm saying 1-1. So now
you're covering all your bases. You can't be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I normally like to predict the day of the game once I see the lineups, because once you see the lineups, there could be surprises, and that can obviously alter things. But
you should do it. You'll have your third. You'll have your third prediction if you do that. You'll definitely hit it.
I don't see them losing.
There you go.
How about that? I don't see them losing this weekend. I still have to figure out if I think they'll win or if I think they'll draw. Because I obviously said a draw here and then a win on my podcast. So I don't think they'll lose with the crowd behind them. I think they'll show some more fight. And I think DC United also has its issues that will make for a decent matchup for Inter Miami in that regard. So I just don't see Inter Miami losing at home in this one. But I could be wrong. I also predicted 4-0 win against the Chicago Fire. And that
predicting a 4-goal win I love it. That is extreme. That's extreme.
I thought they would, with the confidence boosting victory in Cincinnati. I thought, and Chicago was in a bad way. I was like, that Montreal game was probably just a one-off for them. They're gonna click. They're gonna piece it all together now and go on a roll. And obviously that did not happen. They reverted back to the Seattle.
If I said that on this show, there's no way that I wouldn't go into my app and put $5 on what I assume is like plus 1,000 odds to win 4-0. I'd have to back that up with some cash, so I would be rich if I was also being ballsy.
Yeah, I'm not a betting guy. So I just make predictions. That's all.
That's fair. I wasn't until this year. It's a dangerous game. It's a very slippery slope.
Yeah, and as I always say that my the feeling of losing money outweighs my feeling of winning money.
Fair enough.
So I just don't bet. I try not to.
All right, Franco. Thanks again for joining us. Tell the good people if they want to read up, if they want to listen, maybe a little more detail about Inter Miami. Where can they find you, and where can they listen?
Yeah, so I obviously write for SBIsoccer.com. I've been doing that for a long time, even back to the days when I was covering the Red Bulls, one of your guys' favorite teams, I know. And so all my writing is on, or most of my writing is on SBIsoccer.com. When I moved back down to South Florida before the start of last season, I decided to start a podcast and a YouTube channel, which both go under Miami Total Futbol, and football is written in the Spanish language way, FUTBOL. So I put up videos on a pretty regular basis. I wouldn't say daily, but multiple times throughout the week, press conferences, my analysis, my takes, as well as the podcast, which comes out once a week on early in the weeks, Mondays or Tuesdays. So yeah, man, I'm like, I came down and I was like, I'm going to do a little bit of everything. I'm going to do a little bit of some video, do some audio, and do some writing, because this day and age, there's different types of fans that like to consume the sport in different ways. So try to be a triple threat, obviously on Twitter at Franco Panizo. But yeah, it's good. This team has not been boring, that's for sure. So there's been plenty to talk about and chew on from.
We got to get on your YouTube level. This is serious. I'm looking at it now. Throw them a subscribe.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we got to the point where we can have ads now on Miami Total Futbol. So that's a nice little plus, but I mean it's still just
sure,
change
car
there
payment
to pay the toll.
Lambo.
Yeah,
I know, right?
I wish. No, it's just to pay the toll on 995 on the way to the stadium.
Nice. Anyway, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it, and let's hope for a good game, if nothing else.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on. This was a good, fun talk, soccer talk, and hopefully we can do it again later in the year when these two teams meet again.
Yeah, it's the next game, my friend. It's literally the game.
See you next week, Franco.
It's like the game.
I'll bring Steve.
Sounds good.
There you go. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, guys. Later.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you guys on Monday. Vamos.